So I just want to point out a few important points from the chapters that you read already. If you want to, you can try some of the exercises at the end of the chapters, but that's not a requirement. So just to read the chapters, make sure that you understand what's in the chapters and then use some of the templates to help you as you're writing your essay. So we'll start with chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the They Say chapter that's talking about starting with what others are saying. So a few things that I want to point out for you from this chapter. You cannot make an effective argument if you're not entering into a conversation with others. If all you tell the reader is what you have to say and you don't put it in context with other arguments that are out there opposing viewpoints, the reader is not going to understand what the point of your argument is. They're going to ask the question, so what? Why does this matter to me? Who even cares why you're writing about this? So make sure that you're entering into a conversation. A good way to do this is to summarize what they say is as soon as you can. In your introduction is a good place to do this, but do it early and do it quickly. You don't want to go on and on and on, but you do want to give your reader a pretty good understanding of what the other people are saying regarding your topic. But don't just say it at the beginning. Remind them of the they say throughout your essay. Continue to put your own argument within the context of the larger conversation. However, don't just list every single point of the they say. Just give a quick preview of what motivates your argument by summarizing the most important ideas or the most relevant ideas from the they say. Make sure that you use the templates from chapter 1 to introduce what they say. So starting on page 23, you can see the templates that the book suggests. There's a lot of different ways that you can introduce who the they say is and what they are saying. A very common way to do it is just to introduce a standard view. In other words, a very widely accepted view. So there's a number of these templates that you can use on page 24. Another way that you can introduce the they say is the they say can actually be yourself. It can be something that you used to believe that also applies to something that a lot of people still believe today. So there's some templates on page 24 and 25 to help you with that. You can do an implied or assumed argument. Sometimes it's not so obvious what the they say is. If that's the case, you can use some of the templates on page 25. Sometimes there's a debate that has a lot of viewpoints, like an ongoing debate, more than just two opposing viewpoints. There's some templates on page 25 that can help you with that, and 26 as well. Also, you might not want to disagree completely with what they say. So there's some templates on page 27 to help you agree but disagree. Okay, let's talk a little bit now about chapter 4. Chapter 4 is titled Yes, No, Okay, But, 3 Ways to Respond. So for your essay, it's really important that you not only summarize the arguments that the author is making, but also that you introduce your own argument. There's lots of different ways to respond to what they say, but there's 3 very common ways. You can agree with what the opposing viewpoint is, you can disagree, or you can both agree and disagree. And let's talk about each of those a little bit. So first, you can disagree. This is a very easy way to create an argument, but you can't just flat out say no. You can't say that's wrong, this is false, their argument sucks. You have to actually explain why you disagree. You have to give reasons to support why, or explanations as to why you have disagreement. So there's templates that you can use to help you do that, to help you make that transition from just saying I disagree, or this is wrong, or this is false, to I disagree because. Those templates are on page 58. You can also, of course, agree with what the they say is, but you don't just want to agree only. Say, yes, I like that argument, or yes, I agree with that idea. You have to actually add something to the conversation. Otherwise, you're just repeating the same ideas. It's really boring. you're not bringing anything interesting to the conversation. So think about some things like this. Is there some evidence missing from the original they say that you're responding to? Can you corroborate what they say with your own experience? Can you translate a confusing argument and make it more accessible to your reader? So some templates to help you, if you agree, are on page 60 in the chapter. And then finally, and probably the most interesting way to respond to something is to agree and disagree. Agree, disagree at the same time gives your argument balance. It's not polarizing. In other words, it's not the childish is to, is not, or kind of going back and forth like that. But rather it gives balance. So it keeps your argument interesting and complex rather than just simply disagreeing and saying no, or disagreeing and being kind of boring. It makes your writing a little bit more interesting. You can, however, tip your argument subtly in one direction. So if you agree with some things but you disagree with others, or you disagree with a few points but mostly agree, you can use your language to demonstrate that to your reader. And there's some great templates on page 64 and 65 that can help you to create that complexity in your writing. And then the last chapter that you had to read for this week was chapter 5, And Yet, distinguishing what you say from what they say. Sometimes it's a little bit hard for a reader to figure out whose argument is whose. What does the author believe, and what does the author think is the they say or the counter argument? So make sure that it's really clear who is saying what. Hopefully, throughout the class, as we've been reading different texts, you have been able to decipher for yourself who is saying what in the readings that we've done. So what is the author's argument, and then what is the they say? And we've done some practice with that in class. There are templates on page 70 and 71 that can help you to signal who is saying what in your own writing. A couple of things, though. A lot of the templates use more generic language, but some of them do use first person. And it depends on the teacher. Sometimes a teacher will say absolutely no, never, ever, ever use first person. I don't necessarily know that that's true. Sometimes it is okay to use first person, and sometimes it isn't. In general, you should just check with your teacher and see what is okay. But overall in writing, I do think it is probably okay to use first person sometimes. You don't always have to be so explicit with who is saying what. You can kind of be a little bit more clever with it by embedding the who into your statement. There's some examples of that on page 73 and 74, and some templates on 74 to help you with that. If you have any questions, of course, you can email me. Otherwise, try to use some of these templates in your own writing as you're preparing your final essay.